Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most OP build for Eredrim Immortal Shell 2. We'll be focusing on freeze here, but I'll be showing you some other alternatives. Now, the Great Martyr's blade is a little bit misunderstood. This is the only weapon that can get freeze applied onto it, but the main reason that we want to use this weapon, aside from Eredrim's 200% increase to the damage, is the amount of iframes that you get from this. So when you do a running attack like that, you have full invincibility throughout it, and it does a crazy amount of stagger damage. So this weapon is the best for Eredrim because it's the only one that can apply freeze, but I'll also show builds for the axe and dagger, the iconoclast, and even the axatana. This is the apathy here. This is like one of the highest damage boosts in the game, giving Eredrim 200% damage to frozen enemies, and you can freeze them pretty quickly and easily with this. But early in the game, shoulder bash is going to be one of the best choices for Eredrim. It's actually really good all throughout New Game Plus as well, and we can kind of ignore executioner as it doesn't really work well. If you bring the enemies down to 10% health, you're likely going to take them out anyway, so you're not going to proc it that often. So our first few points in the skill tree are going to go into alacrity here, which reduce the cost of our shoulder bash and make it charge quicker. This is something we're going to use often because it is extremely powerful. It can stagger bosses and it can do a good amount of damage and also break damage. But afterwards, we're then going to come down here and we got an option here. Anguish will deal additional damage on our shoulder bash, so if you really like to rely on it, ideally we would get 2 points here because 10 weak stacks is what makes Eredrim very tanky, because weak makes the enemies deal less damage to us. This is actually very huge because it can just allow us to face tank basically and take hits. So ideally you can take a couple points there. However, at this level I also want to recommend grabbing consecration here, because when you use your heal, you're going to get your resolve back to be able to use your abilities, and you also get a 40% chance to fully get your restore back. That's crazy because if you go through all your heals, you're likely going to get 3 maxed out resolves. Very good, just a numbers game really, obviously. But I'd recommend throwing a single point in there because the second point is only 5 more resolve there. So for 1 shell point, this is huge value. It allows you to spam your abilities a lot more commonly. And Eredrim's also pretty nice because you don't even, his tier 3 isn't really amazing because 2 of them are about the ethereal diapason here, which is not really that good. And then you also have the executioner here, which is also, again, not really that good. So you could just run with these skills right here and leave him as like a 2-tier character to save your glimpse for other characters. But when you get to his late game options, this is where it gets a little bit easier because of the seal affinity. This opens up your dot or parry window and it gives you more riposte damage. Riposte are not currently working properly, but there is going to be a patch coming that'll target this. So riposte could potentially deal a crazy amount of damage once they get their scaling fixed properly. I also don't mind going with the increased break damage on our shoulder bash. Trauma is cool, but it increases the cost of this, so I don't actually like to use that in general. And you can get executioner stacks and keep them a little bit more with this stack here, but honestly it'd be going with seal affinity. If you take him to tier 4, you can safely ignore tier 3 here. It's not like super amazing by any means, and put the rest of the points into apathy. Now if you're not going to use a frost style weapon like the Great Martyr blade, you can kind of ignore this. There's one boss that actually you want to take this for. It makes this a lot easier because they'll try to freeze you. So if you're not going to use frost, I would recommend then putting points into the shoulder bash, getting the max stack of anguish here, and then going and maxing out the consecration. But if you do want to use a frost weapon, we are obviously going to be taking this all the way to 3 stacks for that increased damage to frozen enemies. As you continue on, like these are only like the core 4 we really need. You can put more points into seal affinity for more riposte damage, and even more points into oppression. A single point here is nice for the additional break damage on your shoulder bash, but yeah, it doesn't really need it too much. But if you're late game, you can go all in on these. Obviously, like that's not a bad choice either. But now for the best weapons for Eredrim, I would recommend going with Blood Curse on the Axe and Dagger or the Iconoclast, and you can use Blood Curse on the Clockwork Dagger. This just works really great, or Scythe. This works really great because Blood Curse does bleed damage and it destroys health bars. So these 3 weapons can work very good. Axe and Dagger, in my opinion, is like the best weapon in the game. So yeah, it's really quick and does a lot of damage. Put duality on it. I'm going to be showing the Great Martyr blade setup here because I think this is his like true best setup here with the incredible amount of iframes that you do get. And you can also go with the axatana here and put stasis on it, but we'll cover those in a second. Now for sidearms, I do really like the nail shot here. The shotgun's just really effective, but you can also go with the triarch repeater because this can also give us frost on our weapon. The only downside is this weapon does not come with an ability Tarstone, but if you're not using your ability Tarstones, that's completely fine. It just gives us another avenue to apply frost, although we do need a critical hit for that to be achieved. But honestly, whatever sidearm fits your setup the best. I really like the nail shot and the forgotten crossbow, but the trebuchet axe is really good as well, and you can even get by with like the repeater obviously and the cage hystrix. But this brings us to our Tarstones. Now, the core 4 of the support we want to always have is the Auspicious Stone for the crit chance up 18%, crit damage up 100% from the Headsman Stone, which is incredible. We're also going to throw in the Berserker Stone, so whenever your health goes below 50%, you get 165% increased damage. Massive. And also the Marksman Stone here gives you a 15% range crit chance, which is kind of required if you want to get your weapon to apply the frost properly. Now, if we're using the Great Martyr Blade, we do need to use the Thief Stone. This will give you warp stacks on hit, which makes you attack a lot faster, and just makes it a lot better because these have huge animations, and they're not dodge cancelable. That's what's the worst part about it. The Thief Stone works great on all weapons, basically, the Iconoclast, you name it, the Scythe. However, if you're using Axatanas or the Axe and Dagger, you gotta use the Duality Stone. It is just best in slot. Now, I really like the Enfeeblement Stone here. You can put this on any weapon, but what's great about this is it's going to make it so that targets get fragile, which makes them take bonus damage from our weapon attacks. This is a huge buff, so we can do that, attack faster, and we just delete enemies pretty quickly. Now, Infusions. I really do like to go with the Warden Stone. This applies frost. Obviously, that's the big core principle of this, but lightning can work on the Axatanas, but if you got a weapon that can use the Arbiter's Prize, put Blood Curse. It's just the best status in the game. Axe and Dagger, again, being incredible. You could also go with the Iconoclast with the Curse on it. Curse is pretty fun. It makes them so they can't hurt you, but if you want to do a Curse build, you just want to play Serial. And also, if you're using the Axe and Dagger, the Torpor Stone is really good as well. But again, Frost for this build, so we're going to be using that. And then the Frost Shard Stone. But if you're using the Shotgun, use the Vile Tongue for the Blood Curse on it as well. Now, for our ability stones, the Captive Scab Stone is the only really unique ability stone for the Great Martyr Blade. This makes it so that each strike does 300% damage. It's incredibly powerful. It's what I opened up the video with. It is super good. It does stagger damage as well. Stagger is different from break, where stagger can break bosses out of their attack. And break is basically just knocking them down so you get the riposte off, which is gotten from your parries as well. Now, if you're using the Axe and Dagger, Magdalena's Memento is amazing, but it also applies weak, which we already have as part of our kit, so you don't have to use that, but it is still really good. I love using the Shrike Stone with the Axatana. It gives you a lot of iframes, and it works great with the Iconoclast as well. But if you're also using the Axatanas, Hexapod Core gives you warp stacks, which makes you attack really quickly, so that's great. I'm now not using, you can't use any stones on the Treyarch Repeater to get the frost applied. I think it kind of makes sense. But the Fusillade Stone is really good on like the shotgun and crossbow, so I'd recommend it for those weapons. And for items, I'm not going to use the Grisha Remnant. The Sheephead Totem here can give enemies remove 2% of their max health. That's nice. Active weapons or items, the Common Moonshine is so great because it gives you a resolve back, so you can use this here and spam your moves a little bit quicker. I also want to give a quick shout out to the Mango, which restores 50% of your health, and if you get 3 of them, 100% of your health instantly. I do have a guide I'll have in the pinned comment on how to get the Mango. It is worth grabbing. And I also have a guide on how to farm Grisha Remnants, which are really good. I can see this getting nerfed at a certain point though. But well caps are another good option for like your passive or your active as well. But now the trick to combat, like what we typically want to do is sprint often. This attack here gives you so many iframes and it'll freeze targets, which then gives us that crazy boost to our damage so that we can just take them out. And this freeze actually helps out a lot because we are going to be attacking really slow. But yeah, you typically want to sprint often in this game, so get used to pressing your left control stick and going into sprints. If you get a freeze off, that's your cue to start pummeling away at them. But yeah, you want to be opening and using the sprinting attack so often, and you can see why there. That second attack just sends them launching, flying. And our normal moveset with the Great Martyr Blade is pretty slow. You do this attack here. I do have a tier list of all the best weapons in the game. This one is actually an underrated one because of this attack right there with the massive amount of like stagger that you give off on enemies. It's so good. So we do have another great opener with the shoulder bash as well, so that is another nice option you can go with. It does take time to charge, so this is something you'd use a little bit differently, but it applies those 10 weak stacks, which is amazing because that's just going to slow the enemy down and you deal a little bit more, or they'll deal less damage to you. But again, I would highly recommend just going with the quick heavy attack, like sprint and go into a heavy. You just have so much movement with that. It is incredible how powerful it is. but we also have freeze that we can apply on our little Gatling gun here. So that's pretty cool because you just fire away till you get that applied and then go in and bash them with your sword because they're not moving and we're slow with this sword, but it's just super useful for that. But I highly recommend just using the sprinting attack a lot of the time because it's just so good. You have a huge sweeping attack, so yeah, you're going to want to sprint often. There's a few weapons in this game that just highly benefit from sprinting around, so get moving. That's one thing about this game. There's no stamina, so you want to use this to your advantage whenever possible because it just increases your survivability by a lot. So get comfortable with that. If you're using the axe and dagger, the iconoclast, just spam your quick attacks often, but if you're using this, you want to sprint. And if you're using the axe katana, you want to do the sprinting quick attack instead. It is really good. But yeah, this build will work for New Game Plus, you name it. Eredrim is extremely powerful in Mortal Shell. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch you all in the next video.